Hey everyone, and welcome to another episode of Orthodox Review. Um, a few things about this episode. This is one I've wanted to do for a very long time, as this book means a lot to me. It was instrumental in my catechism into the Orthodox faith, and was really the book that inspired me to not only start collecting service books outside of prayer books, but also learning more about our history of Orthodoxy in America. This is a book that was touted by my patron saint, Raphael of Brooklyn, commissioned by St. Tikhon of Moscow, and still in use to this very day in the Antiochian Archdiocese. So I hope you'll stick around and spend a little time with me as we go through this epic volume. The service book, as translated by Isabella Florence Hapgood, the 1922 edition. I can't wait to share this with you. Hello everybody, and welcome back to Orthodox Review, the most uneducated educational program on the internet. I'm your host, the guy with 1.5 thumbs, and I am so very happy to finally bring to you the service book, translated by Isabella Florence Hapgood, the 1922 edition, the granddaddy of all of our service books, the progenitor, the basis, and in my humble opinion, the only one that our services should be derived from at their core. We'll get into that in a bit. But first of all, I got to do the shilling. Like, share, subscribe. Please, we're almost at 1,000 subs, and so many cool things are possible after then. I'd really like to start be able to bring you more professional looking content instead of just doing all of this on my phone. At any rate, let's get into the book. First and foremost, let's go over the construction of the book. It is beautifully bound in red leatherette. It's kind of like that glossed paper that kind of looks like leather. The binding itself is gluten tight, sewn with regular wear will lay nice and flat. The paper stock, let's get in here. Check out this paper stock. That is nice paper stock. I don't know what they used, but man, just a fantastic job. And considering it's a facsimile, this wasn't typeset for this. This is a copy of a copy. You know what I mean? But still masterfully done. So right there, in of itself, construction of the book, fantastic. So let's get into the history of the book a little bit. The first edition was published in 1906. Isabella Florence Hapgood was a linguist and Episcopalian. She was an American Anglican, and at that time, the Anglican Communion had really good relations with the Orthodox, because they were still pretty conservative back then. And it's a shame the way things have gone, but back then, really good ties. So she, under the direction of St. Tikhon, that St. Tikhon, when he was the Archbishop of Alaska and the Aleutians, but stationed in San Francisco, and of course, anyone who knows anything about St. Tikhon, he did a lot of work throughout the continental North America. As did his charge, my beloved patron saint Raphael of Brooklyn, but we'll get back into that in a minute. So, because he thought it a good idea that people in America should worship in English. What a thought! Who'd have thunk it? So, at any rate, the original was prepared under his supervision, and this second, or as it's called on the title pages, revised edition, came out in 1922. Now, those revisions were prepared as early as 1917, but because of the Bolshevik Revolution, St. Tikhon and Miss Hapgood had a hard time communicating back and forth. They did meet in 1917, but the approval for this one came in a letter from St. Tikhon in 1921, and the only changes that were made to that manuscript were just typographical errors and slight spelling mistakes, that sort of thing. So really, the 1906 and 1922 are virtually the same book. Now, I love this book. I absolutely love this book. This is the book that my priest, my dear spiritual father Peter, used up until his copy mysteriously disappeared. So I have a feeling that he's going to mysteriously find a new copy. But and of course I've always been mystified by service books. So I was tickled and happy to find that in the early 20th century, my patron Saint Raphael, Saint Tikhon, and pretty much every other saint in North America, saint now, was like, yes, we need to do English services because we're in America and we want people to understand what's going on. And so this was the book. This was it. And this was kind of, I couldn't imagine the work that went into this, because what she did was she went through all the old church Slavonic volumes for the translation, and then kind of just corrected a few things against the Greek, and we've come out with what we have today. Now, most translations after this use this kind of as the benchmark. In the Antiochian Archdiocese, these are still the translations they use for the most part, including the liturgy. If you go into the little red prayer book, this is the liturgy you find. Now, do I really want to talk about liturgies in English? Maybe I'll rant about that at the end of the video. But let's get into this. So a few notable things about this. Now this book is kind of a catch-all. It's a little bit of the Oikos, a little bit of the Orologian, and the way the and first of all, if all the greatest information about this is in the prefaces. You have the Patriarch's endorsement from 1921 from Tikhon, November 3rd, 1921 to be exact. The preface by Miss Hapgood, which is a great read unto itself. But the contents are listed alphabetically, which, when you think about it, is pretty useful instead of trying to dig around. Because usually when you find translations from other books up until, say, the 1960s, the table of contents was in the back and it wasn't alphabetical. It was kind of a pain in the butt. So for us here, Americans, this is fantastic. But you have just a little bit of everything. You have all the hours. You have pretty much the entire book of needs truncated in this thing. It's brilliant. All the ordinations and services you could possibly think. A few notable things that I bookmarked because I thought they were just treasures. In the entire service of Great Compline, not the small one, the big one, with all them hymns and all them psalms. Now the psalms are taken from the Book of Common Prayer, and the scripture quotes are taken from the King James. Now here's what's really cool about this translation. Because Miss Hapgood was an Episcopalian, and she, I believe, rightly thought that conforming this translation to translations that Americans would be familiar with in their vernacular is that beautiful old prayer book Victorian English, and it is just gorgeous. It reads so well. It's beautiful. Now, a lot of people are into that modern English stuff, and they can be, that's fine, but it's whatevs. So you have the entire office for Great Compline. This is what I love. All your special services, all the great feasts. Usually you have to go onto, like, a website at your diocesan or whatever, like, to get the services, but they're all in here, including the canons. And that's pretty rad. But what's better, check this out. You have complete services. Oh, hold on. I forgot the service for Thanksgiving for an answer of prayer. This is just good. This should be in regular prayer books. Like, I didn't know this service existed. There's a bunch of Thanksgiving services in here. But here's the best part. Page 576. Well, not the best part, but one of my favorite. If this doesn't get you to want to like kind of scramble out for a copy. 569. Come on, we're almost there. We're almost there. There we go. Oh, past it. All right, here we go. The 8 tones. But not just the tones. You've got entire canons. Entire canons for the eight tones. They're all in here. It's flipping amazing, dude. Like, how do more people not have this on their bookshelf just for reference? Let's go back to this to the table of contents. I mean, it's amazing some of the things you find in here. So you have canon for the 8 tones on 576. That's just where we were. You have all your stuff for chrismation, Christmas, the blessings for all these. Like I said, like half of the small book of needs is in here. Baptism. You got a whole bunch of different funeral stuff in here, which is great because I'm going to be doing that funeral episode. What? And that, folks, is what happens when you record an episode on your phone. But yeah, so all these, like, all the ordinations are in here. Bunch of Molebins, however you want to pronounce them. Guys, would you believe that this book is only $25 through Antiochian Village? Go get a copy. Just if you're into service books, if you're into the history of service books, if you're into just some beautiful English renderings, or if you're just outside the Antiochian Archdiocese and you want to see what they're up to, get this book. I cannot wait to talk to you more about this book in the comments below, or even by email, or whatever. Hit me up. I love this book, and I love you, and I'm just, I want to go on and on about it, but, you know, I'm just going to wind up stumbling with my words. This is Orthodoxy in America. Paper bound and beautifully printed. Folks, I love you. Pray for me, please. I'm still praying for you. There's your spooky cat fix for the morning. All right, let's do this. Don't forget to go to church, say your prayers, and remember God. God bless.